So it's better to distribute your protein intake throughout the day to avoid that overload. So I think a lot of us, we tend to we skip breakfast. We may or may not get any for that first meal of the day. And then dinner time comes and we're like, oh, I'll just have that big piece of steak or that big piece of chicken. And we're thinking that, we're getting that protein enough because we got maybe a larger size for dinner. But all in all, that's putting a lot more stress on the body and the digestive system, because protein does take time and energy and work to break down those amino acids and for it to be utilized. So spreading it out through the day is a really, really good way to do it. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slemp. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello and welcome. I am glad you are here today. Today, I am going to be doing an episode. This is going to be something I'm going to be probably doing as the questions keep coming in. So this was a question that I wanted to talk about and answer from one of the listeners here. And she wrote me, and she was actually in my recent masterclass, Type 1 Diabetes and Menopause. And this was a topic that not only came up in our community, but within our group community inside the program. But this is a continuing question. I know on social, when I post different things about food and things that I like and some recipes that I like to share, the topic of protein comes up. So she wants to know, is it safe for women with type 1 diabetes? Are there safe ways to consume enough protein without damaging our kidneys? Great question. And this, again, like most things that we talk about, it's very unique to you. So what I'm going to do today is go over some 9 strategies. These are things to consider, things to definitely talk to your doctor about. This is not for me to decide how much protein or advise how much protein you should be eating. This is definitely a conversation that begins with your doctor, with testing and whatever feedback you are getting from your medical team. And I definitely encourage you to work with your doctor to know the status of your kidney function, which is something I'm going to be talking into, because we've got to know what's going on in order to make these healthy decisions and choices about what's on our plate, and to figure out what is the best protein formula for you. So here are some strategies, 9 of them. And this, again, the goal is to maintain healthy kidney function while still getting in that enough daily protein. And I do talk about that quite a bit. We try to combine our food. That is the goal when blood sugar and hormones are things that we're trying to keep steady and happy. And protein is a big part of that. It helps to satiate us. It helps to balance the meal. And it also helps when it comes to how carbohydrates, when we do choose to eat them, will be, absorbed and used for energy in the body. So along with healthy fats, and we're not going to focus too much on fat today, But protein is that piece to the puzzle that is so important. So understanding our needs, number one. So daily requirements. This is another great question. So generally speaking, the guidelines have been to, and this is, you can get the calculator out and calculate this. I know there's a lot of apps where we can look up what we're eating and the grams per serving and all of that. I actually have some free resources too. You can definitely reach out if you would like my cheat sheets on common protein sources and how many grams per serving they contain. So our goal between 0.8 grams per pound up to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 125 pounds, and again, the average is about 1 gram per pound. So that would be about 125 grams of protein per day. Again, based on your body weight. There's a lot of other things to consider, though. Your activity level, how much muscle you have or are continuing to try to build. That's something I really encourage. It's a very helpful tool in processing glucose, metabolically healthy and happy, keeps us going, keeps our hormones in check. So protein is that necessary key to maintain and to grow muscle. And yes, we can still grow muscle and maintain our muscle as we're aging, most definitely. And a balanced diet. So again, understanding how much we need. So to ensure a balanced intake of carbohydrates and fats, along with protein, to maintain overall health and our blood sugar control. So I talk a lot about balance. We talk here a lot about food on this show too, and how much I love food. I love how it can all be combined on the plate. And protein can definitely be kind of where you begin with your meals. I kind of go back and forth with vegetables. I tend to have a plan on what vegetables I'll be eating for each meal. And then the protein is always a consideration. So I build my meals around the protein source and then the vegetables, add in some healthy fats, and then the carbohydrates. Again, there's different types of carbs. We know there's some that are going to require less or more insulin, and that is going to be your choice. But again, it is all about choices. So number 2 is choosing high quality protein sources. And, studies do show, like everything, quality matters. We need to know where these sources are coming from, where they're sourced, the type of animals that they might be sourced from, if you are an animal protein eater like myself. And some tips to consider are lean meats. Again, we're focusing on kidney function. So we want things that are going to be easy to eat, easy to digest, and easy for your kidneys to process them through your system. So the lean meats, again, lower in fat, lower in saturated fat. That is the sticky stuff that can kind of, it does. It kind of builds up in our arteries. It can cause plaque and all those things that can lead to other health conditions. So some examples are chicken, turkey, lean cuts of beef. And if you happen to be a pork eater, I don't tend to eat pork. That's just my own personal choice. But again, look at where it's sourced and the quality of the protein. So fish and seafood, because they're so rich in omega-3 fatty acids, that's another advantage. Some other quality protein sources are dairy, low-fat or fat-free options like Greek yogurt. I'm not a big fan of fat-free. I think we need that fat. But again, these are things you have to consider about what is best for you based on your kidney health and function. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and things like coconut milk. Actually, coconut milk does not have protein. I retract that. Almond milk does have a little bit of protein in it, but milk in general, cow's milk, again, that's going to be your decision if you are not dairy sensitive. So some plant-based proteins. So I'm just going to run down a list here, some things to consider. Beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, quinoa, and nuts. And seeds are another great option too. And protein powders. So this is a really, really good question. This comes up quite a bit. I use a plant-based protein powder. And the reason I like this is because it's organic. It has a couple simple, recognizable ingredients, no junk or fillers. And another thing to consider is when you are picking a protein powder, that it contains at least 12 grams per serving. There's definitely some out there that have a lot more than that. So again, I would say less is more. Start on the lower end and maybe build up. And again, talking with your doctor, or maybe if you are working with a registered dietitian about specific things that you may or may not need as far as protein sources. And another thing that I'm aware of too is that we should be avoiding those protein powders with phosphorus added, and that are low in sodium and calcium. Again, those tend to be things that are added. So if we are picking well-sourced, natural plant-based proteins, these additives, that are loaded with phosphorus, extra sugar, extra calcium, and sodium are not really the natural state that they should be, put into your body and utilized. So just a reminder to maybe look for that on the ingredient list. Another source is eggs. So they're versatile, nutrient dense, and definitely a great option. Okay, so number 3. So again, we are looking at protein and how we can safely get it into our diet, managing type 1 without compromising our kidney health. So serving size is real important, right? I did talk about how much. And it's real important not to overload the kidneys at one time. So it's better to distribute your protein intake throughout the day to avoid that overload. So I think a lot of us, we tend to we skip breakfast. We may or may not get any for that first meal of the day. And then dinner time comes and we're like, oh, I'll just have that big piece of steak or that big piece of chicken. And we're thinking that, we're getting that protein enough because we got maybe a larger size for dinner. But all in all, that's putting a lot more stress on the body and the digestive system, because protein does take time and energy and work to break down those amino acids and for it to be utilized. So spreading it out through the day is a really, really good way to do it. Another trick that I use myself, and I really like to coach this as well, is because sometimes protein is just one of those things. Well, ladies come to me and they're like, I don't know where to start. So I say, start with that first meal of the day, right? And that's a great way to get it going, to get that protein in. And they say to start with anywhere from 25 to 35 grams, again, for that first meal of the day. And what that does too, I'm going to divert just a little bit, is it's going to satisfy us, so we will be less likely to be reaching for, the simple carbs when it's not quite lunchtime yet. But our stomach is kind of growling or talking to us. But when we can get that protein in first thing in the morning, along with a complex carb and some healthy fat, that combination, that great way to combine your food and to feel satisfied, keep you steady. And it's not just blood sugar. We talk about blood sugar a lot. That's the obvious. But think about your mood, your energy, your just the likeness of how your day kind of works or doesn't work. In this case, we want it to work. We want you to be steady and encompassing everything that you're doing: work, family, duties, errands, all the things that our days just kind of unpack for themselves. So definitely think about ways to incorporate the protein in every meal. Now, I have just to kind of give you an added bonus here today as we're talking, I have created some customized recipe guides, and I share this a lot with my clients and within my programs. And I created these balanced meals. These are suggested meals, and ways for you to put things together. And I love the beautiful pictures because it shows you the food. And, we do the best we can to kind of copy what we see, but it definitely stirs your appetite when you're looking at how these recipes are created. And they are managing, to best manage our blood sugar with type 1. And these recipes are low glycemic, high fiber, and quality proteins. So you can see the difference. And I will link them here in the show notes for you to check them out. And you wonder why I get asked, why should I pay for a recipe guide? Well, the difference is I've done the work for you. I understand the essentials of managing diabetes, and I understand how balanced meals with, again, the low glycemic ingredients, the high fiber, and the quality protein. And these recipe guides, one guide has animal-based protein, and the other one has plant-based protein. And, it's all about having a plan and about having it visual. And I'm not always a recipe follower myself, but I definitely use these as inspiration and ideas of how to put food together. And the best part is that each of these combine, all these recipes include the total macronutrients and the carb counts to guide you for dosing. So that, I think, is the biggest bonus. And that's the number one feedback I get. So as someone who manages type 1, I know the importance of, smart shopping and meal planning and saving time. And that's something that is included in this, in both of these guides. So, and if you're on board, check these 2 recipe guides out to kickstart your journey. You can see right here in the show notes, labeled custom recipe guides. And so number 4, let's jump to water. One of the things I like to talk about as well, because I know how important it is. And I don't know about you, but I feel a difference when I'm not drinking enough water. Well, guess what? Your kidneys do too. So it's really important. Adequate hydration helps the kidneys filter waste more effectively. So that's another reason, right? So track your water intake. So, just be mindful of how much you're drinking. And that's another trick too, to slowly increase. You don't want to go from 2 cups a day to drinking 8 to 10 cups a day, because that's just too drastic, too much for the bladder and, the functioning of all the things. But, start slow and just know how much is important for every day. Another guide is half your body weight in ounces, or you can shoot for 8 to 10 cups a day, which is about 80 to 100 ounces a day, somewhere roughly around there. And of course, you're going to adjust that for, and if, your needs, your activity levels, the more you perspire and sweat, especially this time of year, we're recording this in summertime, then our body is naturally going to require more fluids to replenish what we are sweating out. So number 5. So these are ways to maintain healthy kidney function while getting in enough daily protein. So number 5 is to monitor your blood sugar levels. So again, it's all about keeping track of what's happening. So whether you're using a CGM or a glucometer, notice how different proteins affect your numbers. So, and excess protein, again, if we go back to the recommended amount per day, which is what we said was, an average of 1 gram per pound of body weight. And we divide that by, say, 3 meals a day. We're talking about 30 grams per meal. You might have a snack here and there, and I definitely recommend we add protein to a snack as well. Then we can easily get to that 100 to the 125 minimum. But we have to consider too the different types of protein, and the ones that tend to have a little bit more fat, they may actually require insulin. And this is probably something you've already experienced. You've already noticed how it can affect how much insulin is required. And a perfect example is pizza, right? There's a lot of things there with pizza. Obviously, there's some protein in the fat. And it takes a little bit for that crust to kind of do its thing. But it is the protein in the fat that's slowing down or it's a delayed glucose response. So you you have to be aware of that and expecting that to kind of pop up a little bit later. Usually within 2 to 4 hours is when you're going to see that rise in glucose, and you have to dose it, to dose your insulin accordingly. And number six, it's real important to have those checkups with the doctor, scheduling those regular appointments with your endocrinologist and or your nephrologist. I have a hard time with that word, which are kidney specialists. So if this is something, maybe you have been living with type 1, I am very lucky. 42 years now for myself, and my kidneys have been good to go, and with no issues, no signs of disease or poor function in my kidney health. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that. And it's important to speak with these experts and these doctors, or a dietitian that you might be working with, to get specific advice on how much protein intake is going to be right for you. Again, it's a very personal decision, very individual decision. Okay, avoid excessive protein intake. So it is about moderation. So, like I said, decide on how much you need per day and to divide that out between your meals so that you're not asking your kidneys to process and to do all the work in one meal or in one sitting. So while protein is important, excessive intake can strain the kidneys. It can put a lot of it makes it harder, especially if you're already living with if you have some pre-existing kidney issues. Definitely something to be mindful about. And we just keep kind of circling back to balance. So a balanced diet, and knowing that you can get really good protein and adequate protein, and not only from animal products or animal sources, definitely from plants and the beans and legumes. I was saying those don't take quite as much energy from the kidneys to process, but to still be absorbed into your system and appreciated. So use protein supplements wisely too. So definitely be looking for your quality products. Another thing that collagen is another one. I use this myself. I sprinkle a little collagen powder, which I believe it's got 10 grams per scoop. I put that in my coffee in the morning. So that's a nice way for me to get a little bit, first thing in the morning. It's very easy for my body to utilize and to assimilate. It's easy on my kidneys, and it's a good source. Again, it is a plant. Actually, collagen is never plant-based. It's definitely, this one is a bovine supplement, but again, it's well sourced. It comes from a company that I've been using and really enjoying their supplements for a while. And, to use supplements to meet protein needs without over relying on them. Again, food first, right? Good quality food is always first, is our first choice. So finally, number 9. So to monitor your kidney health, and this is really, like I was mentioning in the front of the episode here, you've got to know where you stand. You've got to know how all of your systems in your body are working and working together, and to get those regular tests done, right? So keep up with the routine kidney function tests. And again, get with your doctor about that. But there's such as the serum, creatine, and the EGFR. So those are a few to look at, or maybe to ask for if the doctors are not already testing for that. But generally speaking, they definitely should be. That should be on your blood work panel. And it's all about knowing it ahead of time. If you get your blood work done twice a year, 3 times a year, it's keeping our eyes on those numbers. It's just being aware. We don't want these issues to sneak up on us. We want to have a more preventive approach to, again, what we're choosing, how much protein that we're getting in, and how our body is utilizing it. Another thing is the 24-hour urine test. It should be something your doctor, your endo, should be doing at least once a year. This has been kind of an ongoing topic. I know online this came up And it doesn't seem to be happening as much as it used to. I guess the doctors are using more of the blood test results, or maybe just the visit. So sometimes if we go into the doctor's visit, they'll ask for a urine sample. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure I forget what they are testing in that sample. It might be having to do with the kidneys, but I know the 24-hour urine test, 24-hour, gosh, that sounded funny, is really the best because they want to see what's happening on a full day cycle throughout the day, just to see, the trends in how your kidneys are functioning. So, and, watch for the symptoms. And again, speak with your doctor about this too. Be aware of symptoms like swelling, fatigue, or changes in urine, in your urine output. And be sure to talk with your doctor about any of this that might be going on. So by following these guidelines that I just mentioned, the 9 things that I just listed off, and working really closely with your doctor, we can live with diabetes, and we can consume protein in a safe way that's still going to be optimized, to benefit other systems in our body. And consuming enough, again, that's a variable topic, like I was mentioning. So definitely something to talk with your doctor about and to find good quality. So if you walk away with anything today, just be aware of where you stand, have this conversation with your doctor, getting the tests done, picking quality sources of both. If you are an animal protein eater, consumer, and plant-based sources. It's really, again, this is another reason, really good reason to pay close attention to what we're buying, the food on our plate, what we're ordering, and so that we can avoid, any future issues with our kidneys. So just a reminder before I close out today, to check out my 2 customized protein-packed recipe guides that I mentioned early on. And again, I've created these meals to help you, and they are just suggested. It's not a meal plan. I cannot do that within my scope of practice, but I can give you some amazing recipes with all the information that is going to help support you and guide you to make your decisions and some choices around the kitchen. And the fact that it's low glycemic, high fiber, you need that fiber too, and some quality protein. So you can check those out here, those 2 different types of recipes. You can visit the link, custom recipe guides. The link is right here in the show notes, and that'll take you to my website, and you can see more information and a click to purchase those. So I hope this conversation has helped you. And if you like this episode and this really added some value and some information, be sure to take a screenshot and share it on social media and spread the word about this show, because our aim here is to get this information for women living with type 1 diabetes, generally speaking over the age of 40, but are, coming into perimenopause, all the way through postmenopause. So this is midlife and beyond, and to empower you and to keep you close to all the information that you need to function. And again, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your dedication to this show. And if you have a question that you'd like me to feature on a future episode, you can visit my website, again, abundanthealthwithmelissa.com/podcast. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you will see a section there. It says get in touch. So send me a note if you have questions, show ideas, things that you want us to dive into. I would love to hear from you. So have an amazing day and enjoy your protein. Take care of that body. Know that you are worth all the effort it takes to both listen and to learn and to apply everything that's going to support you managing diabetes as we age. So until next week, bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 and Midlife Podcast. podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.